Hi, my name is Savannah Martin. I chose to do my project 3 over medieval times in the Canterbury Tales. I have previously done a few readings from Canterbury Tales and actually found it to be very interesting. It's not a lot different when you're reading about it than if you're looking at it in the church perspective, which I did. I found a lot of references to the church and the church being an issue. Chaucer himself wrote it while he was in jail, and he wrote it for the people because the church back then, they spoke a different language. I believe it was Latin, and the people didn't speak Latin. The peasants didn't speak, the common folk did not speak that, so they were already given no access to faith that they did believe in, because the church decided that they were going to have separation. There were going to be hierarchies in it, and they were denying faith to people that needed it, which in my mind is just mind-boggling. I mean, how do you deny something that we can't even see or hear, and it's just a belief system? And they denied it. So Chaucer wrote the Canterbury Tales while he was in prison, and he wrote it for the people and wrote it for them, which I just found very interesting. Not a lot of people did that back then. You could get killed for that. Obviously, he was in jail, but he did it anyway. But going forward, I mean, the people themselves, you read along, and there's a quote, and they had friars back then, and if you wanted to give a confession, you had to pay the friar. So you're paying for them, which to tell their sins, you have to pay. That just blows my mind. I found it very interesting that he, was like a whistleblower almost. He was calling them out, and that is a very ballsy thing to do, especially back then. I mean, it was absolutely wild, but I love that he helped the people. I love that he, decided, he's like, you know what, this is the end. I'm going to expose it for what it is. He had enough of the biased cultural terms that there were with the church. It still goes on today. I'm a Catholic. We still have, obviously, the Catholic Church has a ton of issues, and a lot looking back, but that we still have. But I mean, everyone has their right to faith, and back then it was, if you didn't have enough money, you're not going to heaven. You can't own land. You're a peasant, which is just, it was mind-boggling to me. But he did represent the culture and the times very well in the story. I mainly quoted just the Canterbury Tales in my paper because I figured that that's really all you need if you can pull direct quotes from the story, analyze them, and understand the cultural significance that it had. I don't believe that you need any more sources than that. It's very clear what he's trying to do and what he's saying in these texts. There is no rebuttal for it. He's laying it out for you. I'm sure the church didn't like it. I'm sure they didn't appreciate it, but it was time for the people to have their own, story being told, and I feel like if I were in that time, I would have thought that I was absolutely crazy. I mean, you're telling me I can't study my faith because everything is in a different language, and my language that I speak is considered less than yours, and you're supposed to be leading, and I'm supposed to be worshiping and finding wisdom through this, and I'm unable to, because you're not allowing it. It's mind-boggling to me. A lot of these stories and of things back in the day just blow my mind, of the projects that we've done. It's hard to wrap your head around, but there are things today that are going on, that are happening, that it is still very hard to wrap your head around. It does not make much of any sense. It makes sense that back then, hundreds of years ago, that they had the same issues going on. And especially with religion. It just, insanity.